This is a Your Voice, Your Future Town Hall. Crisis in the Classroom.
The message needs to be loud and clear to any far-left activists. They're not going to come into our classrooms and indoctrinate our kids.
Your rhetoric has been incredibly damaging to the state of Oklahoma.
We've got a job to do, and it's not to stir up fear in parents, and kids, and teachers.
I don't negotiate with the teachers union. They're a terrorist organization that is content.
It's not okay to be a bully, and it's not okay to shut people down for trying to do the right thing.
The next time someone thinks of getting into a war of words with an English teacher, they might want to think twice.
It doesn't matter how much the radical left attacks me.
I didn't think at 68 years old I would have to be concerned about public education for my grandkids, going backwards instead of forwards.
My message to State Superintendent Ryan Walters is it's time to stop campaigning and get to work.
Good evening, I'm Wendy Suares, and welcome to this Crisis in the Classroom Town Hall. In the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking with State Superintendent Ryan Walters about the issues facing parents, students, and school administrators. But first, Capitol reporter Peyton May takes a look at some of the pivotal moments since Superintendent Walters took office in January.
This year's State Superintendent Ryan Walters has made hundreds of headlines, local, statewide, and national, running on ridding woke indoctrination from the classroom and going after any teacher who gets in his way.
We have two individuals here who decided that they are activists, not teachers.
The curb on curriculum leading to book bans for certain content.
I talked to parents in all 77 counties over the last 2 years that are so frustrated with the pornographic and sexual material being given over to their students.
And how history, like the Tulsa Race Massacre, can be taught.
Let's not tie it to the skin color and say that the skin color determined that.
He's threatened accreditation for school districts.
I would advise Tulsa Public Schools, their leadership, do not test me.
The performance of superintendents.
The board has made a significant step in rooting out a cancer of the district that caused so many problems.
And the value of teachers' unions.
I don't negotiate with the teachers union. They're a terrorist organization that is content.
He's come under attack for promoting religion in schools, advocating for the 10 Commandments, prayer, and Christian signage in public school classrooms. While there's been plenty of conflict,
I will not be distracted by the lies of the teachers union, woke, sellout legislators, and the media.
There's also been initiatives to move the state of education forward with incentivizing teachers.
Our best and brightest teachers have to have the pay to support what they're doing in the classroom.
And prioritizing reading.
So what we're doing is implementing that strategy statewide so that we can get our students back on track with reading, especially in those early grades.
Superintendent Walters has been very vocal about his opinions on Oklahoma education, taking his accusations of Chinese government infiltration to the United States legislative branch.
Any kind of agreement with a communist party is unacceptable.
To the U.S. Executive Office.
If the Biden administration really wants to move forward with one of the most radical initiatives we've ever seen in the country's history, we're going to sue them.
And even the U.S. Judiciary.
A long history of Supreme Court positions have created, in fact, a state-sponsored religion, atheism.
For Fox 25 News, I'm Peyton May.
Well, it has been a tense time for many this year. Superintendent Ryan Walters joining us now to talk about it all, from school vouchers to religion in the classroom to curriculum issues. First, thank you so much for having this unedited conversation, all topics on the table. Let's start with what you think your biggest accomplishment has been in your first almost year in office.
You know, I appreciate the time, Wendy. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on tonight and talk to your viewers about what we're doing in education. You know, I think it was very crucial for us to start immediately by ensuring parents that we were going to drive left-wing indoctrination out of the classroom. Parents' Bill of Rights being passed through our board, school choice being done through the legislature so parents can choose the school where their kids attend. And we've launched the largest teacher recruitment program in the country, having over 950 teachers apply to come to Oklahoma to teach. We've now launched the biggest, most aggressive tutoring program in the country as well, that's kicking off over Thanksgiving break. So I think there's a lot of major victories for us here early on, and you're seeing the momentum really start to turn the tide, and we're hearing that around the country as I'm being able to speak and tell Oklahoma's story. So I am very excited about some of the efforts we've already got done.
Yeah, definitely excited to dive into some of those wins. Let's start with the school choice initiative. We did have our legislature pass the tax credit initiative this year. I know you weren't involved in crafting that legislation. Are you frustrated at all with any of the problems with the rollout? I know it's costing 4 times as much as lawmakers were told, $4 million versus $1 million a year. We've seen some private school tuitions go up. How do you think it's going?
Look, I think it's going really well. You know, when we pushed this across the finish line with the legislature, we wanted all families to be able to choose the school for their kids. We knew that this wouldn't only be beneficial for those individual children, but it would be better to the entire education system. We're 47th and 4th grade reading. We have 75% of our kids can't read, can't do math on the standard of the grade level they're in. 74% can't do English on the grade level that they're in. And so what we needed was a change in the system. This provides the free market incentive for our schools to perform better, so I think that's fantastic. Come January 1, we're going to roll these out, and the tax submission is going to make sure that parents can apply for it, and so we're doing all we can in the State Department to make sure families know about those options and have access to them.
Yeah, so $4 million, you think it's going to be money well spent?
Look, I think that we've got to get money in the hands of parents, and I have made that clear throughout my election and throughout my time in office that we have got to connect the money into the hands of the parents so they can choose for their kid what their educational future will look like. So I think this bill is a huge success. I've been touting it around the country, telling Oklahoma's success story. I want our parents to have these choice options. And so, yes, I think it's a huge success. Very proud of our state.
You also talked about rooting out this liberal indoctrination that you talk about from the federal government and more. And during your campaign, you talked about potentially turning away federal dollars tied to these initiatives that you don't support. Sure. We're looking at $783 million plus in federal money that comes to our schools. Is there still talk about rejecting federal dollars, especially as you call for an end to the federal Department of Education?
Look, I have said that, and I appreciate your chance to have me talk about this. I've said from day one, we are going to analyze every single dollar we take in and make sure there's no woke indoctrination attached to it. We're going to make sure there's a return on investment for taxpayers, and we're going to make sure that we see improvement from kids and it's transparent for everyone. So every single federal grant we look at, we ask those questions. We're not going to apply for grants that tell us that we have to do diversity, equity, and inclusion or critical race theory. We're going to take federal money that help our students move the needle in math, reading, and science. So that's what we've continued to do, and I'm going to always not allow left-wing activists to push an ideology on our kids when our core focus has to be the basics, because that's what ultimately gets our state as a leader in all categories. This is workforce development. This is quality of life. This is getting businesses to move here. And when I was in D.C., I had a business leader tell me, as we were fighting back on this indoctrination coming in from the federal government, coming in from left-wing activists, that we love what you're doing in Oklahoma. We're looking to move some of our operation to Oklahoma. And you hear these stories of excitement around, you guys really get it. You get what we want in workforce. We want these talents of our kids to be realized by focusing back on the basics. So we're going to continue to do that. And yeah, we've seen those successes.
So even if this Department of Ed gets completely abolished on a federal level, what is that going to mean for our kids?
Right. What that's going to mean is that the education investment actually gets down to the kids. We shouldn't be spending all of this money on bureaucracy. We should be spending it on your kids' education. And so what we've continued to see is a growth of bureaucracy. We've talked about this before. You see this rapid administrative growth. Our schools now pay for more administrators, more folks outside the classroom than actual teachers. So we have more staff in schools that are non-instructional than instructional.
We're also at the bottom, though, in per pupil spending. Do you see that as an issue?
Okay, well, we're not the bottom.
Near the bottom.
Look, we're not the bottom, and what I've seen is, I'm going to tell you, Wendy, it's not about the money. It's about the way the money is invested. And what we've continued to see is an education system that has grown bureaucracy, grown administration, and not truly gotten the money to parents and families and to the classroom. So that's where you've heard me. Yeah, I want to eliminate the Federal Department of Education. I want money going directly to schools, directly to classrooms. I want less spending on bureaucrats, and that's where the learning takes place. Your viewers know that. They want a great teacher in the classroom who's supported, and that's where the education funding has to go. So it's not about how much money, it's about the way the money is invested. It's about ensuring that it's getting to our teachers and to our classrooms.
Talk to me about this curriculum that you don't want in our schools. You call it, social emotional learning, or I don't know if you've touched on that one yet, CRT. We've even had textbook publishers pull out, 8 of them. That's not normal, right? To have publishers just say, we're take us out of the mix. We can't get these curriculum standards where you want them and jump through these hoops for you.
No, look, hey, I appreciate that question because you're highlighting exactly what we said we were going to do and what we're doing. If you're teaching math, you don't need to be telling our kids that they might be racist because of their skin color.
Does that happen? What
Absolutely.
math book says that?
Absolutely. We've got. We'll go down through the list. Look at the textbook companies that pulled out when we said that was the bar, Wendy. We told them we want to see math standards that align to math facts and the mastery of our standards. And we have textbook companies that said, look, we can't do that. We have already developed textbooks with these type of concepts in there. So they can leave. We can find good materials without left-wing indoctrination. You've heard about my Back to the Basics plan. We want our kids to master those subjects. Oklahoma can lead through the lens of education. I mean, I really believe that, Wendy. When you look at education, it is a vehicle to much broader initiatives for the state. This is how Oklahoma becomes a leader. But we've got to get this question right, and you get it right by a laser focus on the basics, by driving out so many of the forces that have been part of the status quo in education. And that's where you see this disruption that we've brought in that is going to bring about this positive change for parents.
So let's talk about, too, I know you just got back from Iowa. You are working with President Trump on his campaign. Did you take a paid position in the campaign?
No, I just, I support President Trump. I think we've got to get him back in the White House. I support his education initiatives. Again, him and I have had a great conversation around where he's going to go with education in the future. And so I believe it's essential that he gets elected, reelected back in the White House for the sake of our country and our state.
So not a paid position. Is it taking you out of the office here? We've heard criticism that you're just not there a lot at the State Department of Education.
No, look. Again, when you look at and you hear my critics that are always very loud on these issues, but what you've seen from me is a belief that Oklahoma can lead this entire country. And I believe that in education, I believe it in workforce development, I believe it in keeping tax rates low, regulations low. I truly believe in the state, I believe in the people of the state. And so what I've continued to do is to push reforms as fast as possible to reimagine an education system that's actually a leader with a high standard for every single child. And I'm telling that story across the country. I've been able to recruit over 900 teachers to the state. Businesses have come to the state and pointed to education as the reason they're here. We've had families. I was in Lawton not too long ago, Wendy, and I had an African-American off-duty police officer come up to me and say, I have worried about my daughters in the schools until your election. And now I have so much relief. I've got my kids back in a public school, and I'm very proud of what the state's doing. I hear these stories all the time across the state, and that's what I'm going to continue to do is fight for our kids.
Yeah, so what specifically do you think was happening in those classrooms before you got here that's not happening now?
Oh, look, we've heard the stories. You have these diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings that have stopped. You have these books that have pornographic material that have been pulled off the shelves. You've got now parents much more involved in their kids' education. We've heard the changes in local school boards of allowing parents to speak on behalf of their child about certain curriculum that's being injected into the classroom. And so what we're starting to see are the schools are starting to open up more, listening to parents' voices. We have recruited some of the best teachers in the country to come to Oklahoma. And we've now got this aggressive tutoring that's going to start in November. And Wendy, it's the first of its kind in the free market incentive of we're going to pay for performance. We've got a performance pay initiative for our teachers to make up to 6 figures because, again, what do I want to incentivize? Our kids learning. So we've done that with teachers, and now we're going to do it with tutoring as well to get that outcome where we want it to be.
Yeah, a former or current teacher can make $50 an hour doing this. Who's paying for that?
Yeah, we found the funds in the agency to do that. We've got after-school funding that, again, when I went through the agency, one of the things that we did right off the bat, look at the return on investment of the programs. So what we found were, guess what? There were programs that weren't working. So what we've done with those is we've cut programs that haven't worked, and we've put money in places that we know will work. We know that empowering our best teachers, retired teachers, teachers that want to do above and beyond, but again, we want to be able to pay them for the exceptional work they're doing. This is what changing education looks like. It looks different. You've got to think outside the box. And so when I look at a problem, I always push my team, we're going to find solutions, guys. We're going to identify problems, and then we're going to come up with solutions that mean that parents are going to have a better school for their kids are going to be better equipped to enter the workforce, and live a better life. And so this is one of the things we identified right off the bat is we've got to get more of this one-on-one tutoring to go on with kids that have fallen behind to make sure that they have the ability to catch back up.
Yeah, especially with our large class sizes right now. Some of these classes are just huge. When do you expect to maybe have a report card to see how this program and some others are successful? How long do you expect it to take?
Look, I expect to see results this spring. I mean, you know, that's where you've heard me, whether it's talking about Tulsa Public Schools, and, you know, I went over there and had a elementary school that had 98% of the kids couldn't read on grade level in an elementary school. And it breaks your heart. And I talked to parents in Tulsa that said, you know, I don't know what to do with my daughter. I don't know what to do with my son. I mean, this is just heartbreaking to me that they're going to go through their entire elementary school's years in an F school. And, you know, it takes me back to, in the mornings, I try as best I can, if I don't have an early morning meeting, to take my kids to the bus stop. They have the 6:15, bus stop there. And so, you know, I get up with them, and it's exciting, though. They show me, here's my homework, here's what we did. Can't wait to see our teacher. And they love their bus driver, too, by the way. Miss Stacy's like a rock star with my kids. So
bless all the school bus drivers out there. We love you.
Yeah, I mean, they can't wait to see her. But, you know, it's exciting for me. I love it. I love our principal, our teachers, our bus driver. And, you know, it breaks my heart to hear from parents across the state that don't have that experience. And so that's where you've seen me be very aggressive in that, guys, we've got to see change now. These kids don't have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan that can impact them. It's got to be within this year that we see positive change.
To be fair, that 8th F report card, there are factors that schools really don't have a lot of control over, that chronic absenteeism, you know, kids that maybe don't have a home life or parents at home to be empowered by what you're talking about. What are you doing for those kids?
Yeah. Look, I appreciate that question, because those are the kids that, you know, we look at that and you look at these statistics. Those are kids that oftentimes, you know, in a broken home, coming from poverty, that, hey, you want to make sure that they've got the resources they need to be successful. And that's where so much of what we're doing with, whether it is our teacher recruitment, hey, we targeted schools of high poverty. We targeted schools that were low performing in academics, specifically reading. What did we do with the tutoring program? The first schools that we went to, the first schools that we're getting resources to, are the schools with the highest poverty rates and the lowest performance rate. So we are getting resources there, and we're also telling districts, you've got to change what you're doing. You have to take a look at when you have over 95% of kids in a certain building that aren't performing on grade level, what do we need to change here to meet the needs of every learner? Because I refuse to believe our kids can't learn.
You think by this spring we're going to see a change?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay, I want to go back to kind of this, you're saying we're spending too much money at upper levels. You've really cleaned house a bit in the State Department of Ed. I think you recently said in Stillwater you fired over 100 employees, more to come. And you've also posted a job for someone who's supposed to manage your national media appearances. First of all, have you hired that position?
No, and you know, and that's not, you know, when you look at these things, Wendy, you look at what are we doing here? What we're doing here in education is we're dramatically reforming this education system, and I want to bring in talent to be able to do that. And so let me tell you, an analogy I go to is you got to have a football team that hasn't been winning, right? And you say, hey, I hired a new head coach, and I want you to take us to the national championship. But I don't want you to fire any coaches. I don't want you to recruit new players. And I want you to use the exact same playbook we used last year. Well, that's ridiculous. You would never ask a new head coach to do that. Well, I've come in, I'm changing out who the personnel is. I'm recruiting talent. I'm recruiting talented teachers to come to our classrooms. And I'm also changing the playbook. We are going to do things differently in order to dramatically reform and reimagine what education can look like for our kids. And again, part of that is we've been telling the story nationally. You don't get 900 people to want to come to Oklahoma and teach without going out and telling of these successes.
So you're saying we as Oklahoma parents and students are going to benefit from you going on more national media by telling our story? Is that money well spent for us?
What I'm saying is we are doing national recruiting efforts for teachers to come to our state. That has paid off in the largest teacher recruitment in state history and the largest right now in the country. We did that through targeting places nationally where we knew some of the highest performing teachers were, who had good values that we knew would step into our classrooms and align with what Oklahoma wants for their classroom. So we've absolutely targeted those folks nationally, and we're going to continue to tell Oklahoma's story. We're going to continue to recruit business to Oklahoma, and we're going to continue to recruit the best teachers in the country to come here and teach.
So much so that you need a full-time staffer to help manage this. Can you tell us about anything big coming up, any appearances or interviews that you are looking forward to maybe put us more on the national stage?
Oh, you know, I don't know of any off the top of my head. You know, my concern and the thing that's top of my mind is, again, this large initiative that we have in tutoring. And again, boy, we've been starting to get folks reaching out to us from other states saying, well, how are you guys doing this over Christmas break, over Thanksgiving break? How exactly are you doing this? What's the criteria? So it has already started a lot of national conversations around what can tutoring look like. And again, we did this by thinking outside the box, looking at free market incentives, and then being bold and pushing those ideas out there. And we're going to continue to do that. And so I'm very, very excited about what that'll mean for our kids.
And no idea, though, how much the agency is earmarked for spending on this, or do you have an idea?
No, I mean, I know what we've continued to do is to try to put our biggest initiatives on the forefront. So again, teacher recruitment, the tutoring, we're recruiting tutors right now. So teachers are getting emails from me right now as we speak.
And you're taking volunteers as well. Are they going to go through any sort of screening to make sure they're safe to be around kids?
Yes, yeah. One of the things that they're doing is they apply through us, and we are in contact with the schools to go through and screen the individuals. And we're doing this. It's going to be the fastest turnaround on background checks. We've been working through that, troubleshooting it with districts. And again, this is one of the initiatives that, again, it's large, Wendy. No one's done this in a statewide capacity. But we believe in our kids, we believe in our state, and so we're really excited to launch it.
You have butted heads with some members of your own party here in Oklahoma. I want to talk about your thoughts on our Attorney General, Gentner Drummond. He has been very outspoken in the misuse of GEAR funding that the pandemic money meant for education. He recently said that we still owe the Fed $17 million back. He said more than 600 families who should have been helped with that money didn't get help. He's also said that you're on the wrong side of this, using public dollars for a private Catholic charter school. Do you have an issue with our Attorney General?
No. You know, him and I work very closely together. I mean, it's, you know, the media, especially left-wing media, love to hyper-fixate on a few things. But I'll tell you, Wendy, I mean, our agency and the Attorney General's office, they work together, I mean, almost every day, every week. We're working on issues with them. So, yeah, no, we work together closely on a weekly basis.
I mean, you've said that there should be no separation between church and state. He disagrees. Do you think you know more about the law than our Attorney General?
Hey, look, Wendy, you know, like I said, I work closely with the Attorney General's office, and we're going to continue to work together. And, you know, I'm always going to kind of advocate on what I feel is best for our kids. And, you know, that's one of those things where our agencies work closely together, and I think we'll continue to do that.
Do you anticipate any more pushback as you continue to speak, I think, more freely and frequently about putting God and faith in the classroom? You want the 10 Commandments posted. You're seeing kind of some pushback brewing just from people talking about the constitutionality of it. What exactly do you think that the role that faith should have in the classroom?
Look, you know, this is one of the number one things I hear across the state. One of the top things I hear, Wendy, is people around the state that go, what has happened to our education system where we used to hear, you know, someone have a minute of silence where kids would pray. We used to talk about the Judeo-Christian values this country was founded on. And we have seen what's happened in society since the Supreme Court ruled in 1962 that they were going to weaponize the government to not allow any kind of references to God whatsoever and intimidate Christians into never exercising their faith on a school grounds. And so what we've seen is a shift in society because of this overstep by the federal government. And so as I've been told by hundreds and thousands of Oklahomans, we have got to redirect our system to where we're not persecuting Christians, we're protecting their religious rights, and we're also telling our history. You know, we have the beliefs of our founders that were very important. We have in our Declaration of Independence that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And so it's very important that our kids understand the beliefs our founders had and how they thought that that was very important in our nation's history. And so again, we want to make sure our kids understand history. We want to make sure that we are protecting your religious liberties. And yeah, we absolutely want there to be able to be prayer in school. We want God in school.
And to be fair, these kids do still have a moment of silence to pray or reflect. And, you know, they say their pledge under God. So it's not that there isn't a space to allow prayer now. Do you at least admit that?
No, Wendy, I mean, I'm going to push back on you on that because we have seen 2 federal judges come into the state and try to weaponize their rulings to push transgender ideology on teachers, on kids. We have seen 2 lawsuits pushed on our schools to say teachers that had any kind of religious symbolism whatsoever. And by the way, this was as you know, simple as saying that don't forget that you're created uniquely, that was targeted by lawsuits by out-of-state, you know, left-wing attorneys.
Do
and
you
so we want to protect that.
Do you think that's persecuting Christians?
I absolutely do. I mean, this is where we've crossed a line where we have told anybody, if you're a Christian and you dare allow anyone in a school system to know that we're going to drive you out of the profession. I think it's wrong. I think it's antithetical to what the founders envisioned for this country. And I think in driving Christianity from our schools, it has done a tremendous damage to our country. And that's where I'm going to continue to fight for common sense, the constitutional rights that we were protected with, and again, the ability for folks to have that free exercise of their religious beliefs.
Is this about pushing one certain brand of Christianity, or do you see this as being open to kids of all faiths?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I do appreciate that question, because you hear this criticism on, you know, from folks. No, this is a free exercise of your religious beliefs. That's a minute where you can exercise your religious beliefs of any kind, but also you can choose not to. This is a protection. Our kids need to know that, listen, if faith is important to your family, we want to protect that. We want to protect your right to
no
exercise
matter the
it.
faith.
No matter the faith, and no matter if there's not a faith. If you don't have a faith either, you're not going to be pushed to do that. Yes, ma'am.
So in terms of using public money for religious purposes, and that's kind of one of the issues that I think you and the Attorney General disagree on, you know, Oklahoma voters passed overwhelmingly in 2016. Over 57% voted they didn't want to use public money for religious purposes. Do you want to change the will of the people?
No, you know, what I'm doing here as we continue to have these conversations, I'm going to advocate for Oklahomans. I'm going to advocate for parents. I'm going to advocate for the folks around the state. And as I've continued to talk to them, it's crystal clear. They want choice and freedom in education. If they want to send their kids to a Christian school and they've paid taxes, they think those taxes should follow their kid to that school. I agree with them wholeheartedly. We have got to allow folks to send their kids to the school that best meets the needs of their child. We also need to protect religious liberties of different institutions. We have that with the Catholic charter school. You can't say everyone can start a charter school unless you're a church. So you are targeting a religious faith there by doing that. And what we're saying is, listen, if they meet the criteria, absolutely we would love a high quality Catholic charter school. And so we are in line with the Constitution. We are in line with the will of Oklahomans. And this is the best path forward for our kids.
Talk about your discipline reform plan that you've kind of teased out there. You said details are coming. Do you have any details for us?
Yes, we do. And so one of the things that we're going to continue to do is we have a Teacher's Bill of Rights, which empowers teachers to ensure that they can teach in a classroom where there's not violent behavior, where the learning environment is not interrupted, and that they have the ability to go to their administrators, the school leaders, and say, this is the handbook. The handbook has to be enforced as it was written and passed by the board. What we have continued to see from teachers across the state are concerns around discipline in their schools and them not feeling they have the support in their classroom or in their districts to maintain that environment.
We've heard that too.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people heard you say, I'm going to crack down on discipline. Does this mean ramping up corporal punishment?
No, not necessarily. No, what this means is, you know, we have some good rules on the books in our handbooks. We also have a requirement that school districts turn in those rules to the State Department of Education. We found hundreds of districts that haven't been doing that. And consequently, a lot of those districts are some of the ones we've heard from teachers that have had major issues with discipline in their classroom. So we're going to get this under control. We want our teachers to be able to teach. We also want all of our kids to be able to learn. And you can't do that with a chaotic classroom without supports for that environment. And so we're going to get that right back on track, protecting the Teacher's Bill of Rights and ensuring that administrators are upholding the handbooks in every district in the state.
So that it can be safe to teach.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I know our time is running out. I have to ask you, these Board of Education meetings, people lining up in the middle of the night, they've been crowded, something we've been talking to you about for months. And I think last check in August, you said y'all were looking for other locations to hold these meetings. Where are we on that?
Yeah, we're always looking for ways to improve the way we do board meetings. We have one of the most open boards in the entire state of Oklahoma. We allow folks to come up just minutes before, sign up for public comment, and we want to hear from Oklahomans. Wendy, one of my favorite things to do is travel around the state and speak to Oklahomans. So we are continuing to find ways to accommodate more and more people, make it easier for people to come speak at the meetings. We want to hear from Oklahomans, and so we continue to try to find the best ways possible. We've done a job of moving TV screens around, providing more access so more people can see it in real time, extending some time limits there on different things as well. So we're going to continue to do that.
But is changing venues a priority right now?
We've looked at that. We're going to continue to look at that. One of the things that we want to make sure is that people have the access that they need, and it's in an orderly fashion. So we want to make sure that people can come and reasonably stand in line and get up there and be able to speak with us. So yes, we're actively looking to find any way possible to make it a great experience for everyone.
And we talk so much, and we hear from you about things that are going wrong in our schools and the threats out there. Talk to us before you leave about the good things you're seeing in our public schools right now.
Yeah, it's Wendy, when we came and rolled out and said we want to do tutoring over Christmas and Thanksgiving break, we reached out to some districts, some districts that have struggled in a lot of these categories, and they were quick to, absolutely. We know we have teachers that would love to do that. We know we have volunteers in our community that would love to do that. And what I'm starting to see, and Wendy, this is what we've wanted in education, is for us to boldly reform our education system to be reflective of our communities, of our values. And we know as Oklahomans, and this is part of what we've done wrong in education, but you're seeing it turn around. Education isn't just this simple, small, narrow view of what it means for a specific standard or academic background. What education is about completely empowering a state, a community, and a family to get where they want in life, to give them that quality of life, but to give them access to great jobs, to give them the ability to fully realize what it is they want for their family, for themselves. And when you do this, the state can be turned around. Oklahoma can be a leader in not only education, but in every category. And that's what I see. I hear it from Oklahomans. I am so optimistic about the future, Wendy, because when you go around the state and you see folks and you hear about what they want for their kids, what they want for the future of the state, I'm inspired constantly by that. And that's what keeps me, so excited about where we're headed. And so we're just getting started, but you can already see so many Oklahomans that have said, absolutely, we are embracing reform and change. We want to be a leader in education, and we want to be a leader as a state.
Well, 30 minutes sure goes by fast. I appreciate you taking the time. So many more topics to cover, so hopefully we can sit down again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Wendy. And we'll have much more coverage from this interview and our extended coverage tonight on the Fox 25 News at 9. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Wendy.